guys, this is Comic Uno, and today I'm doing Comic Uno's Best Comics of the Week, and this is a show where I review all the comics I read this week in one show. We go least favorite to best pick of the week and everything in between. And of course, at the end of the episode, we talk about the viewer's pick of the week, so in the comments below, let me know what your pick of the week was for a chance to be featured on the episode. Now, let's jump into this week's comics with the bigger overall, theme of this video or discussion being Nite-Mite. That was kind of the big thing that happened this week, and should you pick up that book in general. Now, let's start out with number 8, and number 8 for me is Dark Crisis Young Justice issue 6, and I've been on and off with this series. There's some issues I really like, and then there's some issues I don't feel like hit the mark. Last issue I loved. It was in my top 5, and this issue I just don't feel like it stuck the landing as much. I feel like there's a lot of things that they were trying to explore with Cassie's leadership, or, you know, the love triangle between Connor and Cassie and Tim. A little bit of impulse in this as well, all while you're trying to introduce a bigger villain. And I just felt like it was too much for this arc, and it felt a little bit too jam-packed, where I don't feel like some of the initial ideas were really explored fully in this issue, because it just didn't have enough room to do so. So overall, I'm giving that 2.5 stars, and that is number 8. Moving on to number 7, a book I was very much anticipating, and I feel like it's just starting, so it's kind of hard to judge, but Goblin issue 1 is my number 7, and I'm really excited for the overall Spider-Man new titles spinning out of Dark Web. You have the Gold Goblin stuff, you have Hallows Eve, the Red Goblin thing. There's a lot of different titles coming out. Even Miles Morales is rebooting. And I want to see what a Norman Osborn book would look like that he is struggling with being good and staying good, and what that means, and what does guilt mean, and that this issue does that. But if you're reading Amazing Spider-Man, it kind of just treads old water. There's not a lot of new information where you're like, whoa, I need to pick up that next issue. It's just like, all right, Norman's dealing with some guilt, and he doesn't really know what type of goblin he should be, or if he should be a goblin at all, because will this tempt him to the dark side? I like the artwork a lot here. I like that it was a little grittier than your average Spider-Man title, because this is a more anti-hero book, so I enjoyed the art style, and I would say that's why it is a 3-star book for me. I think it introduced things well enough for people who have not been following The Amazing Spider-Man, probably just wants to pick this up, but I did want a lot more from this issue as well. I'll definitely pick up issue 2 because I'm a Spider-Man fan, but if I wasn't, I don't know if this would have tempted me to get that next issue. So giving that 3 stars, and that is number 7. Moving on to number 6. The topic of our video, which is the introduction of Nite-Mite, issue 98 of Nightwing. And this is a one-shot, so if you want to pick it up, you can. If you don't, I don't know how important it's going to be, and that's kind of my answer to that, is that I feel like because Tom Taylor likes this character, we might see him show up again, but is it going to be a Spec book? Is it going to be, this new major character? I don't think it really played off that way. I think it really was just like, oh, we're getting issue 100. What fun thing can we do as a filler as we get to kind of the bigger storylines in this book? And there are small moments here that felt bigger. I would say the Batgirl and Nightwing talking about marriage was somewhat interesting and interrupted. I will say the humor of Nite-Mite is not my thing, so that kind of took me out of the book. I'm sure it is other people's type of humor, but I thought he was a little bit too much for me. So I didn't love the Nite-Mite character himself, but I think it explored interesting sides of Nightwing. We got to see some older sides of him, older costumes, and again, the exploration of Batgirl and Nightwing was interesting in this issue. And the art. Love Daniele's art style. Since Power Rangers, I like when he works with Tom Taylor, so it's cool to see frequent collaborators just have fun on a book. So, was this book for me? No. Will it be for you? I don't know. If you like Tom Taylor's humor, I think you'll like this. I think it is a little bit more kiddie-fied. It felt a little bit more all ages to me. But I don't know if this is going to be a character that's going to be featured in the future. I think that's going to be really what's going to tell us if you should pick up this issue in a Spec circumstance. But as just an issue, I think it's easily skippable if you have a very full week, but if you're looking for something to fill up your pull list, then maybe check this one out. So giving that 3 stars, and that is number 6, I believe. Moving on to number 5, which is Murderworld, Avengers issue 1. I was planning on getting Murderworld Spider-Man. I heard that these are 2 connected books, and it didn't disappoint. You know, I wasn't expecting really anything. Like, I always feel like when they do Murderworld, it's interesting, but it always treads old water. You know, how much can you really do with it? But it's always a visually interesting book because you have Arcade doing this Hunger Games, pretty much. And that's what this is. It does take a long time to introduce the main character of the story, and then he becomes a mutant, and he's, like, fighting against Avengers, which was interesting. Some good action and visuals. That's really what this issue is about, and some good twists and turns as well by the end, which is what you want in, again, a Hunger Games style book. Is this something that blew my mind? No, but I think it was fun. I think the artwork worked well with, again, a more visually interesting book and more visually weighted book. So overall, I gave it 3.5 stars. I had a fun time with it. Gave me enough to want to read the Spider-Man one, but will I read Moon Knight and the rest? I don't know. So giving that 3.5 stars, like I said, and that is number 5. Moving on to number 4, which is Stargirl, The Lost Children, issue 1. And if you like Stargirl, I think you're going to enjoy this. I think the themes were hit home pretty well here. It's these characters from like the 1940s that have gone missing, end up on this island and turn into children. And obviously, who better to tackle this than Red Arrow and Stargirl, 2 sidekick type characters. Stargirl especially being very her whole legacy kind of has to deal with being part of a generational legacy lineup while being a sidekick, or I guess the hero of her own. Usually Pat's the sidekick. But yeah, I enjoyed this. I had a fun time with it. I don't know if it's a must-have unless you're a Stargirl fan, but it looks like it's going to be a fun ride. I like the art, and introduces a good enough story to see where issue 2 goes. So overall, giving that 3.5 stars, and that is number 4. Moving on to number 3, which is Batman Superman World's Finest, issue 9. At first, I didn't know where this issue was going to go. I felt like it was treading old water. We were like, okay, we kind of had the conversation of what is Boy Thunder's relationship with this version of the DC Universe. And then things really start to pick up and start to move by mid-issue to the end of the issue when the Teen Titans come in and Boy Wonder kind of has to decide, am I going to hurt someone to save someone? And Superman's like, yeah, obviously you don't hurt people. And then Boy Wonder is kind of revealing, well, this is my past. And he doesn't reveal it fully, but he definitely tiptoes around it. And then by the end, you have Joker controlling him. So you're like, okay, this guy who's kind of already playing with good and evil is now being controlled by the Joker. So that's interesting. And it just feels so, it's just such a wonderful blend of modern and old school. And that's what I love about this book. I think that's what a lot of people love about this book. And it still keeps you on your toes. Because a lot of times, nostalgia books are just like, oh man, really treading old water. It's just like, I've seen this a billion times, but this book does it in a way where it's like, yeah, this feels familiar and I've seen this type of story before, but you're putting it on its head and making it feel different. All with damn more art. So there's just all wins around with this book. So overall, giving that 4 stars, and that is number 3. Moving on to number 2, which is She-Hulk, issue 8. This is what Rainbow does so well. She's so good at building things up and building character and also building new characters, because this is a new origin story about the girl and guy who seem like they might be behind some of the Jack of Hearts stuff. And we learn their origin story and how they're connected to She-Hulk and why they want to get She-Hulk and capture her pretty much for their own gain and to become the ultimate Hulk. And they want superpowers. And they kind of, this book deconstructs how do you get superpowers. And they're like, well, it's always an accident. How about if it wasn't? How about if I did it on purpose? And we deconstruct that with, Spider-Man's origins or even Wolverine, but obviously mostly the Hulk, which relates to it the most. So, yeah, no, I had a really good time with this one. I like Takashi's artwork a lot. He does a lot of YA books. We've seen him do Spider-Gwen and Miss Marvel, and I think it fit really well for a one-off book if the other artist needed a break. And it's consistent enough with the previous art style. So overall, giving that 4 stars, and that is number 2. Moving on to number 1. and that is Crashing, issue 3. And damn, I love this book. I think it's a wonderful book, and I really like the progression of this book, where, you know, I believe it's a 4-issue miniseries, so you gotta move things along, and this issue moved things along, reveals a lot of stuff, where we get to learn a lot about Rose's relationship with her husband, how they met, and how her addiction has kind of controlled her whole life. And one big mistake that happened was it seems like she killed somebody, and it was ended up being her future husband's sister. All mixed in with superpowers and, you know, underground crime, I would say, all mixed in together. And then by the end of the issue, you get to see Rose has another overdose. So where is that going to lead? And I just love the narration of this book. I think is spectacular. I just, I love the voice. I love Rose as a character, and I just like the movement of the book. It always feels like things are happening, and yeah, the pacing's really wonderful. So overall, giving that 4 stars. Artwork is also great for this book, as always, too. Some really good emotions here that play really well with the narration. So that's my pick of the week. Hopefully you guys enjoyed. Let me know in the comments below what was your pick of the week, and this week, the viewer's pick was Do a Powerbomb, and here are some comments about that. Hopefully you guys enjoyed. This is Comic Uno, and I will see you guys in the next one.